It is now the final week of spring football practices at the University of Miami, meaning the urgency is ramping up. Here are the players and the units who need to step up this week.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The final sprint for spring ball begins. Practice number 13 today, Tuesday morning. Practice number 14 on Thursday. And then the spring game on Saturday at Cobb Stadium. Final spring football practice for Miami. This is the week. I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC and writer for Canes County at Rivals. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. On this loaded episode, we'll celebrate the 100th birthday for the University of Miami. 1925, on this day, April 8th, is when the charter was signed. We'll talk about probably the worst hot take that I've ever seen on Cam Ward leading into this NFL draft coming up in 16 days. How far away is Miami's roster for competing for a championship? And who needs to have a big final week and a big spring game? And you know who's going to help us break that down? Yeah, it's Tuesday, which means it's a Truth Teller Tuesday. Yep. Bruce Warner is with us. Bruce, let's start with a unit. What unit because we're going to be watching practices and spring games this week. What unit do you want to see step up in this final week?
Well, if I had to pick one and we don't have our quarterback, it's got to be the wide receivers, because I'm hearing that the defense is really playing well. They're very aggressive. Of course, all the units, I want them to step up, and every player I want them to step up. I don't want anybody to not do well, but I think the wide receivers have things to prove, because I hear that the receivers weren't getting open last weekend and that closed scrimmage that they had. So, yeah, I want to see these young guys be able to make plays when it counts, and that is the question. And, of course, when Beck gets here, it's still going to be the question. Is he locked in with these guys? Are they on the same page? You know, Ward got here early last year, worked with these guys, and look at what happened. Beck, I expect him to start throwing when we're April, definitely by the end of this month, maybe May for sure, and spending a lot of time with those players in their own little practices someplace, not organized because it can't be, but I expect him to work on a lot of the patterns and the timing. And he's down there watching all this, and he's observing who's doing what and what guys run certain patterns well. So I think for me, the wide receivers.
I think that's a good one. And on that note, this is like the 1B to your 1A. Even though none of the three guys who are going to play in the spring game this week are going to be our starting quarterback, I want the quarterbacks to have a good day, Bruce. And for that reason, obviously the receivers will play better if the quarterbacks play well. You know, the quarterback play without Beck, it's been up and down. It's been inconsistent, but there's been some good and some bad. And, you know, I think I speak for every Miami fan when, you know, I would like to see Luke Nickel have a really good day, even if he may be taking, you know, second or third team reps at quarterback, because, you know, he's probably the guy with the highest ceiling out of those three. And he's the true freshman early enrollee. So, you know, things are, I think, starting to slow down for him over the past couple of weeks. So if I could get like a couple of good, like deep balls from him to Josh Moore or Nye Carr, then I'm going to feel pretty good coming out of that spring game.
Well, that's your wish, but I think that Emory Williams needs to step up and have a good game to get that sour taste out of his mouth, and that would shut a lot of the fans up. It shut me up. Not that I'm complaining, because you and I think he's good, but he can't do what he did in the bowl game on Saturday. There's just no way. So I'm looking for him to play well as well, along with the receivers, and of course, I want to see Elijah Lofton do some things, because he's the new starting tight end with very little playing time under his belt. And by the way, that 100-year anniversary, don't go on the air and say I was a teenager then. You told me off the air you're going to say that to me, but that's not. I wasn't born in 1925. I'm sorry.
You sure?
1927 I was born.
No. I thought if anything, like if we're going to celebrate the 100th birthday of the university, I've got to have someone who's experienced all 100 of those years. And you're telling me you're not that person.
No, I'm not. I'm old. And then when my last birthday, I was 71. It looked like a prairie fire on top of that cake. It was just like smoke everywhere. But
oh man.
But no, I mean that's good. But let's go on. So as far as the units are concerned, I said they're receivers.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what about any other individuals that you would really be looking for? Because I know when you're going to be out there at Green Tree, Bruce Warner is going to have his list of players he's going to be out there looking for.
Well, obviously, I'm going to be there with Caesar. Obviously, I'm going to talk to Damian because I haven't spoken to him other than these text messages. The D tackles, I want to see Justin Scott tear it up. I want to see him get up into that backfield and cause problems. That's what I want to see. I saw Moton do it last year. I want to see what Blake can do. He's here. He's supposed to be a big, strong dude. I want to see him get up the field. And I also want to keep an eye on Hayden Lowe. I saw a film of him, but I want to see him in action. And if he's coming off the left side, he's got Mawanoa on him or him on Mawanoa. Ooh, that could be brutal. Let's see what the kid can do. So I always focus on the D line, and it's a broken record. But last year, our secondary was horrible, probably to begin with. But without the pass rush, it made it more difficult. And I want to see the pass rush, and then you'll see interceptions. You'll see poorly thrown balls. You'll see a lot of sacks. And I'm used to going out there and watching the defense dominate. So, yeah, I want to see the defense dominate. On the other side, I want to see the receivers do well. I want to see Emery do well. So it's kind of hard to say these things because I'm a Kane fan. I don't give a damn about what unit is doing well, but I want to see a difference from what we saw last year. And I want to see the scheme, which I know is different. I want to see that defensive scheme not be like D'Onofrio-ish. I just don't want to see that anymore. I can't deal with that anymore. Can you?
I'll tell you, no, I can't.
Could any of you guys ever want to see that again? Oh my goodness, that was horrible.
I would rather burn my retinas, just never see anything again than see that again. But and this, I think I can speak for both of us on this one. I want to see, obviously not to the point where anybody's getting injured or banged up. That's never what you want to see in squad versus squad scrimmage. But I want to see physicality because I think the way that they're going to do it, especially Saturday for the spring game, they'll probably have live hitting in the first half and then thudding in the second half. That's how they did it last year. That's how they did the scrimmage last week. So you're going to get live hitting, and certain guys out there are like live wires. Bobby Pruitt can be a good hitter. Zaquan Patterson can be a good hitter. Wesley Basaint can play with physicality. So I want to see that, Bruce. Like, I want to come out of that spring game, especially the first half, if the hitting is live, thinking, okay, like we have a team that's actually going to knock you on your ass next year. Like I want to come away from it feeling like that.
Yeah, there's two thoughts. One, 2 years ago, I was down there. I remember telling you, this guy Bain is in the backfield constantly. And then in his first year here, he was. Last year, no. I want to see him return to his old form. That's just on an individual. Yeah. And the second thing is, I don't want to watch any games this year where you and I are texting each other with curse words and screaming and yelling and what the hell's going on and what is this, and just you and I, every game we're just going at it like, what are we seeing? What the hell's going on? I don't want to do that anymore. I love you, buddy, but I can't go through that again.
I don't want it anymore. It's like, it was weird. It was like therapeutic, but it was also frustrating. It's like anytime we missed a tackle, it's like, I got to text Bruce if he doesn't text me first.
Yeah, it was, I don't want to do that ever again. I mean, I want to say, wow, we're looking good. We're looking good. This is great. Yeah. And then, I hear good things about Jordan Lyle. He gained some weight, but I expect our running game to be really good, really good, really good.
Well, something I want to get to this on the other side. I keep getting the same question from listeners about Jordan Lyle and Mark Fletcher. And I just want to share probably the worst hot take I've heard heading into this year's NFL draft. And it pertains to our guy.
Folks. Where do you hear this crap?
It's an absolute beauty. You want to keep it locked right here. It's a Truth Teller Tuesday, and we're only getting started on this brand new Locked On Canes. Guys, the only ticket app that I use is Game Time. I'm on there all the time. Florida Panthers tickets, Inter Miami tickets. I got tickets to an AC/DC concert with my family next month. I got an unbelievable deal there. And guys, there's nothing like the energy of a live game or a live concert, whether it's catching a last-minute MLB showdown or soaking up the excitement of an NBA matchup. But finding great seats at a great price, that used to be a challenge until I found Game Time. Game Time makes scoring last-minute tickets easier than ever. Prices actually drop as the event gets closer. That's the magic of it. And with their all-in pricing, you see the total cost up front, no surprise fees at checkout. Guys, you can book with total confidence and get peace of mind on Game Time with seat views before you buy, no surprise fees at checkout, and the lowest price guarantee. Their lowest price guarantee means I never worry about overpaying. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you for making this episode of Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. For your next listen, make sure you check out Locked On ACC. Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack and I host that show, taking you around the conference. It's a disappointing finish for Duke. We had kind of a year-end review on the ACC in our last episode, so you want to check that out. Available free wherever you get your podcasts and available free on YouTube. All right, so Bruce Warner.
I have a question, because every time I watch this show or I watch your other shows when I'm not on it, what's that thing in the back next to the ibis?
Oh, this?
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah, so this is it's the flux capacitor from Back to the Future. You
Oh,
seen Back to the Future?
of course I have. But what's that got to do with the Hurricanes?
Two reasons.
I'm sorry I screwed up the show, but I'm watching. I go, what on earth is that?
So here it is. First of all, I'm a huge Back to the Future is my favorite movie. That's number one. Number two, it's kind of like an inside joke that I have like with myself and Miami fans about how we live in the past. So that's why.
Okay. Everybody blames me for that. I get it.
So it is your fault there.
Oh. So that sends us into the future. Well, check that thing out and ask when we're going to win the national. Ask when we're going to win the ACC, for goodness sakes.
Well, I'm gonna go 30 years into the future and see if we've won a championship since then.
Don't do that. I'll be dead by then. I'll be 101. And you don't need a 101-year-old truth teller on your show.
So I'm guessing. I'm guessing you saw this from former NFL great LeSean McCoy, Shady McCoy, who I guess is now an NFL analyst to probably find another day job. So he was explaining why he thinks Cam Ward is going to be a bust at first overall. And I'm thinking like, okay, I'd like to hear this, right? Does he think he takes too many risks? Does he think, is there something that Shady McCoy sees in Cam Ward's throwing mechanics that the rest of us don't see? But his reason for saying that Cam Ward is going to be a bust is because according to Shady McCoy, he has never seen someone who was a 0-star in high school, a 0-star recruit, go on to be a great NFL player. So because of Cam Ward's 0-star status, 5 years ago, he's going to be bad in the NFL. Like you saw that, right?
Yeah, I wonder how many stars Julian Edelman had and some of these other guys. How great was Tom Brady getting picked in the 6th round? How great was he? So, but look what happened. He's the greatest quarterback ever. I don't care. Listen, I don't know if he's got a personal vendetta against him, but and maybe he's trying to make a name for himself by coming out with this ridiculousness. But based on that, how about his stats? How about the fact that 32 NFL general managers would all take this guy with the first pick, or most of them would, because of what he's done? And look at the progression he's made, and he's not done yet. I would look at it the other way. But you know what? It's not just Cam Ward and the Titans. It's the Titans and all the talent or lack thereof that's going to make or break Cam as an NFL star. Because if you don't have talent, you're going to wind up like some of these guys that are on, like the guy from San Diego. His team is average. He's a good quarterback, Herbert, but you know what? He's a product of his environment. Oh, look at Tua. Oh, they took him with the 5th pick. But so I don't care what he says. That doesn't bother me.
And it's like it's such an insult to Cam Ward's journey, right? Because I mean, anybody who does 2 minutes of research understands why he was a 0 star coming out of high school. He played in a wing T offense in a small high school, so he didn't have the tape. He didn't have the sort of scouting and the sort of film in a relevant offense to get any offers outside of Incarnate Word. But then it's like he spent the last 5 years putting up historic numbers at the FCS level and then working his way up into FBS and Power 4. And it's like to go and completely discredit Cam Ward's journey, his hard work, his arm talent, his God-given instincts, to completely undermine that by saying, well, coming out of high school, nobody wanted this guy except Incarnate Word. That's why he shouldn't be drafted at number 1. I mean, it's I hope somebody set LeSean McCoy straight on that, because I think that's really an insult to the whole journey that Ward has been on since Columbia High School.
Yeah, and I don't think Cam needs a chip on his shoulder. He's got his own chip on it. He's had that chip since he had no stars, and he talks about it a lot. And you said his parents listen to the show. By the way, if they are listening, I want to say hi, because your son was incredible this past year, and thank you. It's really, he deserves all the accolades, Yeah, he made a few mistakes here and there, but look at the defense helping him out or not helping him out. Incredible. All right, so what else is on our list?
Well, I want to ask you, I know that I don't know how decisive this final week is going to be in terms of Mario Cristobal really deciding where he needs to add players in the portal. Like, he probably already has a pretty good idea what he's looking to do, but where do you, and I think Miami's going to be active, Bruce. There's no such thing as a perfect roster. Mm-hmm. Miami does not have a perfect roster, nor is there such a thing as a perfect roster. And also, I'll say some of the same things this year that I said last year. I thought last year Miami really wanted to maximize their 1 year with Cam Ward. They went out, they added Sam Brown at receiver. They added Damian Martinez at running back. So they added more offensive weapons. I think Miami will try and do the same thing to maximize Carson Beck this year. So what position groups and what spots do you think Mario Cristobal is going to be shopping? Because the portal opens up in exactly 1 week.
I would say they probably want another receiver with experience. It's not going to be your number 1 guy. They still have a bunch of guys, and they still have a young Josh Moore who will play at times. I think maybe an experienced receiver. I don't really know what the extent of Daniel's injury. Could he re-injure that? I don't know. And
he's practicing now, and he's better now, which I think is important.
Yeah, he looks good. And then maybe an experienced running back, just in case they have to go to Pringle a lot more. And I don't know if they want to do that. So maybe a guy that was here the last 2 years, but he took off. We liked him a lot. Was what's number 21 again? I forget these names. He came from Nebraska, and he was very good, but he took
AJ Allen.
Yeah, AJ. He was very good.
He's at FIU now. Somebody. Yeah, he's down the road at FIU.
Okay, well, but a guy like that's what I think they need. Defensively, look, there's so many DBs. I don't think they're going to bring anybody else in there. They got to work on the guys, and they have to have their top 6 or 7 that are going to be in the rotation. And some of the guys will just drift off. Maybe another experienced linebacker. I don't think they need any more D linemen. They have enough rush ends and D tackles that they don't need anybody else. I mean, they might not have, with Lightfoot there and with Hayden Lowe there, they might not have the experience coming off the edge other than Messidor and Bain, but I don't really see them getting anybody else on the D line. Offensive line, I mean, you could always use another, but they have so many recruits that are going to be, well, not here this year, but next year. I would say maybe if they can get somebody as a backup somewhere to either one of the tackles, that would be it, maybe. But I only see them maybe 2 or 3 more players.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I also I don't expect them to lose that many either. This is one of the most common questions I get, and it's really impossible to answer, is like, who's leaving? Like, who's going to leave in the next portal? Unless other schools out there just do some serious tampering and they try to induce our guys, like I don't really foresee like any big time players leaving next week.
Yeah, but I don't know. Look what happened.
We don't know.
Horton left. I know that Mario doesn't want us talking about who might leave. They don't want to throw names out there, and I'm not going to. I don't think.
But I couldn't if I wanted to. It's like, even if Mario doesn't want me to say it, I couldn't even say it. I don't know.
Right, but I'm not even going to speculate. It's not fair. These kids are trying really hard, and who knows what's going on? I don't really know. So, I mean, I know, but I'm not going to sit here and explain why I think this guy shouldn't be on the team anymore. It's not for me to say. I know they're working hard. I said the last couple of weeks, I'm excited about this year. I'm excited about every phase of it this year. I don't see that many weaknesses other than, the concern about Beck being on the same page as the receivers and the youth at the wide receiver position. The rest of it, I'm expecting to be much better all across the board. Now, you really want to delve into this. How about the field goal kicker? Because we don't have those guys anymore. The brothers are gone, right?
Yeah.
And so that may be something that we're so used to almost being automatic that it might not happen. And I don't want to see somebody kicking off and everything doesn't go in the end zone. I don't want to see that. I want to see them just kick it and let them take the ball in the 25 and go from there. So maybe the kicking game could be somewhat a concern.
You know what? I'm going to be watching Abram Murray, who's our field goal kicker. This is going to be his first opportunity. He was really good coming out of high school. So that's another guy I'm going to watch in the spring game. We have I can't remember the kicker who transferred from FAU. So he's like the kickoff specialist. So we got the kickoff specialist and the field goal guy. So I'm going to be watching those guys. Another thing, I want to circle back to the running game, Bruce, which I expect to be really good.
Mm-hmm.
And this question has come up to me a lot over the last, I don't know why people want to know this so badly, because I think they're asking the wrong question. Like, people keep asking me, because with Jordan Lyle, who's having a really good spring, has he surpassed Mark Fletcher? And I don't think either guy has surpassed the other. I think that they complement each other really well. And I think Lyle and Fletcher are both going to play a lot. I don't even think it matters who starts. I think they're going to get pretty much equal burn this year. And I think Matt Merritt and Coach Cristobal are going to kind of ride the hot hand. Yeah. If someone's having a really good series, they're going to stay in the game for a while.
Well, I yes and no, but I think that it's Mark Fletcher's job to lose. I think he's the starter. He's been here a year longer than him, and I think it would be somewhat disrespectful unless he's hurt and we don't know about it. I think it's going to be Fletcher's job to start, and then Lyle will come in. There'll be change of pace. There'll be an entire series where Lyle will be there. From wherever we start all the way to the goal line, and the same with Fletcher. I do want to see those guys catching the ball in the flat. I don't want every time they're in the game to have the defense key on them running the ball. I want them to get the ball. And I know Beck's notorious for that when he was at Georgia, because they ran screens constantly, and not just screens, swing passes, toss sweeps, things like that. And so I don't want them to just be pure running backs. I want them involved in the passing game, especially Lyle, because he could run a wheel route and blow right by somebody, where I'm not so sure that Fletcher can do that. I mean, he can, but I think you could see Lyle on those wheel routes, and good luck chasing him down. It's not going to happen. That's all part of, the adjustments that you make on offense and, of course, on defense. We know, all I keep hearing about is that these kids love the new coaching staff. And these guys are younger, they're enthusiastic, they're fiery, they're aggressive. It just shoots down from Heatherman all the way down, and you got to love it. You just got to love the fact that the word aggressive and anger and violence, those are the words that I keep hearing, and I'm so excited. I want to see us kick people's behinds. You said the ASS word before. I'm not going to get in trouble.
I had to put $1 in my own swear jar over here.
Oh, okay. But again, I don't want to blow this out of proportion. We're still 5 months away from the first game, but still.
Well, coming up next, the University of Miami has reached their centennial. Today is the 100th birthday. Bruce Warner has been around for the majority of those 100 years.
Yeah.
And his top memory of those 100 years of the U, I think tops anything I got for you. So you want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on Locked On Canes. Thank you for making us your first listen and your first watch today. So Bruce, I wanted us each to share some words like in honor, because the University of Miami means so much to both of us, right? I mean, if anyone sees either of us on the street, we're probably wearing UM gear from head to toe. It's all we talk about. It's all, my hobby is thinking about and talking about Miami.
And it's funny because in the last 6 months, no one really has come up to me and said, "Hey, you're the truth teller." But for a while there, it was constant. Now, not lately so much, but that's okay. That's okay. Why don't you do your memory first?
Yeah, okay. So I mean for me, like I wanted each of us to share some words like on what Miami means to us. And there's for both of us, I know there's so much to choose from. And I spent 4 amazing years there as a student. But to me, I just think about Bruce because I grew up before I ever set foot on campus. I was a UM fan. I was a
Mhm.
Miami fan my entire life. My parents, passed that down to me. I loved the U from birth. Okay. And I remember like when I was middle school into high school was, the period mid to late 90s when Miami was trying to get back on track, right? Butch Davis was trying to rebuild the program, scholarship limits, probation. You had, some lean years in there. And I just remember like, and when I'm talking like, age 12 to 16, 17, like that felt like an eternity. I know right now we're in like a 2 decade plus rebuild, but those, 5 or 6 lean years, 7 lean years felt
Yes.
like
They were
eternity to me.
terrible. They were terrible. I agree with you. I don't mean to
They were
interrupt, and
terrible.
we also lost Marlon Barnes in that period of time.
Oh
That
my
was
gosh,
that
that's
was
right.
bad.
And
And
so and
I was
obviously
on the air
yeah,
doing the show
yeah,
that day. I think I said that.
yeah.
Ryan
That's
Collins
right.
called
And
me and told
so
me what
yeah, and
happened.
so
That was
and so
horrible.
obviously, the rebuilding years were not my great memory, but when we came out of it, Bruce, like I don't think I've ever felt outside of, my son being born. I don't think I've ever felt, prouder of, the 2001 championship team that got over that hump, that
Mhm.
absolutely beat the snot out of Nebraska. I think
Oh, yeah.
Jonathan Vilma is still hitting Eric Crouch, 20 some years later. He's still knocking that guy into next week. And just like the feeling of triumph to be back at the top of that mountain, especially after being so close the previous year, right? The BCS screwed Miami out of the national championship game, but we beat up Florida in the Sugar Bowl, and then going undefeated that next year. Like to me, I felt like I was on top of a mountain after those lean, tough years,
Yeah.
seeing all that Butch put together to win that championship in '01. It's not the only championship I've been able to witness, but I think that was the one that just had me feeling like I was in the sky.
Yeah, yeah, that was incredible. That was a great year. That wasn't even a good game. We destroyed them, We
Oh
just
yeah, we killed them.
we
Yeah.
really destroyed them. And I've been around a lot of things too. I mean, it just depends. Hanging around with these players all the time and being with them and traveling with them and the games on the road games and stuff was all exciting. Those title games were incredible. Um, but I would think that for me, the memory that I have to honor this was the time that I had dinner with Chris Fowler. And I've told this story before. And I'm really
Great
trying to
one.
get Chris on the show. But I had dinner with Chris. He called me up. Let's go to dinner. I went down to Miami. We had a dinner at a fish restaurant. It was great. And he brought his videographer there. He had the camera on his shoulder. And he said, let's go down to the U. I want to talk to some of the players. I said, no, you can't. I can't go down there because Dennis knows me. And, I got caught at the Big Cheese once, hanging around with one of the players. I forgot whether it was Claude or Leon, somebody. Sonny Hirsch caught me and he told Dennis, and Dennis called me and said, never again. So when he told me that, I said, no, we can't go. Well, we can go to Caesar's place because Mark lives right near the old Miami Arena over there. And him and Steven and Kelvin and Hambone were there. And he came in there, and for 2 hours without the video guy taking video, he had to leave it in his truck. They gave him an earful. I mean, you can imagine the words and the cursing and the name calling, and we're not afraid of Florida State. There are this and that. And he just got 2 hours of it, and we left. And 2 days later on the pregame show, and I don't know who was on the pregame show at that time, whether it was Corso, I don't know who it was, but anyway, he was there. And his prediction was, because he was the last one to pick, they're not afraid of Florida State. I'm picking Miami. They are not afraid. I'm not going to tell you how I know all this stuff, but I'm telling you, they're not afraid. And they will beat these guys. They are not afraid. And we won. That was wide right, too. And to me, and then, of course, there was a Sports Illustrated story that on Chris, and he talked about, they asked him, what's your greatest interview? And he said, no one will ever see it. It's not on tape. But I was down at the U before the wide right 2 game. And to me, that was the greatest interview I ever had. I don't even think he asked a question. This guy just didn't shut up for 2 hours. And I'm sure he couldn't have used the language they used when he was on, because I watched the pregame show. But to me, that was my greatest memory, just hanging around with those guys.
Incredible.
And watching Chris Fowler, the head guy from ESPN, listen to this and then go on the air and pick the Canes, and he was right. It was pretty cool.
I mean, Fowler got the ultimate insight. Like from the source, he knew
from
Miami was not afraid.
He got it. And that was better. He said that was better than any interview he could have gotten had he gone down to the school and gotten permission to talk to some kids. They wouldn't have said what these kids said. There's just no way. I mean, this was just like sitting at a bar and listening to these guys talk. And the F-bombs and the MFers, and it was just an incredible play. And I'm sitting there because I know these guys. I'm cracking up. I'm just laughing because that's how we talked. And here we are. I got Mark's coming to my house tomorrow, and we'll go down there on Thursday, and we'll do it all over again. But you can get in touch with Chris, I'll try to get in. I would want him on this show. That would be awesome because he could tell you himself what happened.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. And that story to me, it captures not only the win that they were about to get against Florida State, but just the spirit of the team and the swagger, all of that.
Yeah.
All of that is in that story.
Yeah, that was 92 because 91 was wide right one. So, and that game was in the Orange Bowl, was a lot of these guys' final game at the U. But again, to watch that show, and everybody watches the college pregame show now, they got Saban on there, whoever. None of those guys have this type of insight. I seriously doubt that they sit down with these guys in a place where they're not being filmed and they hear all this stuff. It just doesn't happen, And again, as I said, that Chris told Sports Illustrated in the story they did about him what happened. So that's I'm sure he'll never forget that ever.
Nope. His best interview. Well, I love it. Well, happy 100th birthday to the University of Miami. Happy late 71st birthday to Bruce. You almost made it for the full centennial. You almost made it.
I don't know how many more years I have to go, but I can't wait. What's the last 24 years ago we won the title? I'll be 95. Yeah. I'll be Gene Hackman here. I'll be dead. No, I won't. I won't be here. I might even die doing this show with you one day.
You might. That's what a way to go. That would be. We appreciate it.
Then you can tell your grandchildren, "Hey, my co-host died on the air. Isn't that cool?"
You want to watch it? Yeah.
I want to watch it.
Bruce
All right.
Warner.
So anyway, I'm hoping to see you Thursday morning down at the school. And if in fact we are down there, we're going to try to do something afterwards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Try to bring you guys something live from the field.
We should talk to some of the former players out there. We'll do that. We'll get everybody's.
I'll introduce you to everybody I know, which could be almost everybody on the sideline. But
and then I'll stalk them for the entire practice.
Yep. All right, buddy. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.
We'll talk to everyone soon. We appreciate you guys making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. Smash that thumbs up button, hit that like button, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, wherever you get your pods. Guys, make sure you are checking out Locked On's NFL Draft coverage. Make that your second listen. Locked On NFL Draft with Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez. As your favorite collegiate players get ready for the next level, get the latest draft rankings, rumors, and news every single day. Find Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. So we'll talk to you next time on another Locked On Canes right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.